Meet the Robinsons. They seem like your average, run-of-the-mill family, but I don't think your family rocks space travel for a living. Yes, sir. What makes this family a cut above the rest is that they're astronauts.
Okay, it's still my turn.
Bet your relatives never made Neil Armstrong cry. They're playing the zero-gravity card game when a disturbance really shakes things up at the ship, so the space family braces themselves. The impact forces them to evacuate, but Maureen gets a bit of a leg injury along the process. Will is the first one out of the ship, and oh boy, looks like they landed in quite the icicle of a planet. The family makes it out of the ship, but the ship wasn't so lucky. Let's rewind when Santa was the only one zooming around in the skies like that. It's Christmas, and it looks like John made a surprise visit back to his family after what seems to be a long military service.
Dad!
Crashing this wholesome family reunion is, guess what? A giant celestial body headed for Earth. Alright, back to Maureen's broken leg. She makes the daring move to taste the first fresh air in months.
Not a bad consolation prize.
After they get settled in with the atmosphere, they try to figure out where they are and where they can call for help, along with the other ships that were with them. So far, this planet is unknown. Actually, they're lucky this planet has water and breathable air. Not so lucky is the fact that they're running out of suit energy.
I can't raise any of the other Jupiters.
And once the sun goes down, this place will freeze over more than it should. John hatches an idea, and oh boy, it's not going to be easy. Basically, he wants Will to swim down to the sunken Jupiter ship, get some suit batteries, then come back. He's the only one who could do it because he's the only one small enough. That was the plan until Judy takes the dive. She makes it in and takes the battery, but the water is beginning to flash freeze.
Yeah, good idea.
She books it and even drops the battery, but she's stuck in the ice like a woolly mammoth. Worst news is that Maureen suffers from fatigue, so she faints. John does his best to dig his daughter. Then Will says there's some magnesium that will really help burn Judy out of the ice. So he and Will set out to get some magnesium. While the boys are out, Penny tries her best digging out her sister, but they just settle on doing some catching up. Meanwhile, the boys are trekking, and they also do some father-son catching up. They finally reach the cave full of magnesium. Then they get farming. Everything's all fine and dandy, up until Will falls down his hole. Back at base camp, the two sisters find out that Maureen's got some pressure that needs to be released from her leg. Penny knocks her out with a syringe, then Judy talks her through a quite graphic operation.
Done, I did it. Great.
Let's check in on Will. It looks like he slid down to a forest. Since Will can't get back, John has to help Judy first. Then he'll go straight back for Will. Looks like he's all alone, and he remembers that time he froze up for space training tests. Fearing that he'll get left behind, Judy reassures him that family sticks together.
The Robinsons stick together.
Snap back to reality, and Maureen is awake and well. Looks like the operation was a success. A little flashback reveals that Maureen pulled a few strings to get this family together in space. Jumping back to the forest, despite the warnings, Will explores the forest and the view is unlike anything he's seen before. He then finds a crash landing, but oh boy, it doesn't look human. He records his findings and takes a closer look, but he finds something rather unsettling. It chases him, and it looks like an alien torn in two halves. While Will gets hunted, John gets back to camp, and the magnesium is successful in drilling a hole. Hold on, Judy. Help is on the way. Think fast, because it's flashback time. This time, it's between John and Maureen's really rocky marriage, and she's not asking for a divorce, but she's asking for child custody. Drama aside.
You want to take my kids away from me?
Back to Will. It seems that he and the vicious robot are at a standstill. The robot begins to lose its life force. Then, a forest fire breaks out. At base camp, just when they were about to dig Judy out, rain pours. Here at Will's, it's the complete opposite. Fire! He saws the robot off the tree branch so that it could reconnect with its legs, but then the robot rescues him as a kindness. Judy is running out of time. Then, at their darkest hour, Will and the robot are here to save her. Just in the nick of time, Judy's free and the family tearfully reunite with a hug. The robot even helps them warm up. One last flashback for the episode, and it's revealed that a similar-looking robot attacked the Resolute space station. So people are running for their lives. This one woman passes off as Dr. Smith. Then the entire space station gets eaten alive by this wormhole. On to the next episode. Looks like the same engineers that helped the fake Dr. Smith crash landed on the same unknown planet. The dude is Don West, and it looks like he and Dr. Smith is currently stuck in the ship.
I'm stuck.
They get out of this sticky situation with a little tool improvisation. Back to the Robinsons family. They're slowly getting to know the robot, but it then awakens and warmly makes its way to their Jupiter spaceship. Meanwhile, Smith and Don are salvaging what they can from their ship. Then Don finds his friend Tam in the rubble. Looks like she bit the dust though, so Don continues salvaging and even fires a signal flare to call for help. At the Robinsons' Jupiter ship, the robot is helping John dry and salvage their ship. Back to Don, he sees a sign of life somewhere far, so they head on out to look for hope. Speaking of hope, the Robinsons are back on their ship. They begin fixing this and that, and they even made Maureen a leg brace so that she could get to moving around again.
Fantastic.
Outside the ship, Penny spots something. Then John concludes it might be survivors from another Jupiter ship. So John and Maureen agree to search for more survivors, but John secretly invites Will over, while Penny and Judy are instructed to dig the ship out little by little until it floats to the top. Once they're set, Will, the robot, Maureen, and John all set out into the wilderness. Just in time, Don and Smith get to the crestfallen person in the fields, and surprisingly, Angela here is still alive. Back at the search party, the gang finds some crashed remains of the Jupiter 17 ship in the woods. Then Penny sees a rough storm overhead of her parents' search party. She tries to warn Judy about it, but Judy chooses to follow her mother's orders.
We have to do something. Think it through.
So Penny does the most bonkers thing and fully throttles the engine. Her reason is to drive this baby. Too bad it doesn't have wheels. With that being said, the search party states their findings in the crash, then relays a message to any other survivors nearby. That being said, they hear a noise, which gets the best of their curiosity. So Will asks the robot to take them to the place where they first met, hoping to find some answers about that noise. Looks like the same storm is looming over Don and Smith. So Don reluctantly carries the fainted Angela, and they start moving away from the storm. That storm is really pulling the strings for this episode, and it even gets Penny to fix the chariot. Judy is still having a little PTSD, so Penny drives forward without her. Everyone's a little shaken, so Don and Smith here shoot a flare, seeing if they could reach anyone. Nope, no luck yet. Maybe the Robinson search party will have better luck with this crashed alien ship. Maureen and John try to search the insides of the ship, while Will and the robot guard the outside. While the folks are investigating the ship, Will shows the alien robot how to play a human game of catch.
Nice.
He learns quickly, but soon something messes with the robot and it begins lighting up weirdly, along with the inside of the ship. The folks inside discover a holographic map, but outside, the robot suffers from PTSD. It looks like it's the same robot from the Resolute attack. Holding this piece of alien ship debris connects Will in the robot's memories, making him see the attack, and oh boy, there he goes. The robot does catch up to him, but it really doesn't remember anything. Or is it just as hostile as before? Will tries to command it to take itself out, but he's already far too attached to it. At the windy wilderness, Don, Smith, and Angela are still braving the wildlands. They retreat to the small cave. Then Smith volunteers herself to look for help, while Don stays with the slumbering Angela. In the woods, the storm is beginning to brew. And guess what? It's raining, but not water. It's raining sharp gemstones. The family gets to cover. Then Penny finally contacts them. The robot then sends out a signal light, and Penny sees their location and picks them up.
Excellent. You finished the list.
The robot holds on to the back, however. John takes the wheel and zips off. Just as they were getting away from the storm, Don sees them and there's hope. John sees the flare and drives back. Look who it is. It's Smith. She's the one rescued, and she lies about being alone. Turns out she swiped the flare from Don when he wasn't looking, and there's the betrayal. Of course, the Robinsons don't know anything about this, and John is just focused on driving back. The family makes it back, and hugs go all around, up until Smith is startled by the robot. Alright, time for the next episode. Let's take a little step back, and it looks like this is about Dr. Smith's past. She's overly jealous about her sister, Jessica Harris's life, while Dr. Smith here, aka June Harris, is a criminal. They argue for a while, but Jess is here to give her sister all of her belongings.
Be a better version.
Jess says she should start fresh, and oh boy, looks like she already has by spiking Jess's drink. She then takes a sample of Jess's flesh and disguises herself as her. Her plan was to nab the ticket to space for her, and man, what a scumbag. Back to the present, Maureen talks about the map she found on the alien ship, and she says to the family that they're beyond trillions of light years away from Earth ever since the wormhole incident. Despite this, Maureen is determined to make the best out of their situation. But sheesh, everyone needs a break from all of the things that recently happened.
Think a lot clearer after some rest.
The rest of the Robinsons retire up until the storm is over since there's nothing they can do. Then June, aka Dr. Smith, helps her out with cleaning up. Smith gets acquainted with her new room, but the robot looms over her. Later in the evening, Smith snoops around and she sneaks around Penny and Will's room. At some point, Will wakes up thanks to his nightmare of the robot attack. He goes to the kitchen, then Smith catches on about the nightmare being about the robot. Then bang! Looks like the glacier is caving into the ship. So the rest of the Robinsons wake up and duty calls. Maureen begins assigning duties, but new problem, the entire engines are clogged from the storm. Maureen and John hop to it and they have to unclog the engine. So Maureen's gonna go for Judy, but John says it isn't a good idea because she's still shaken up by recent events. So they opt for Smith instead, and everyone else will clean assigned engine parts to them. John goes down to the flooded internal chamber, but something is lurking down there. A different problem hits John when his wife finds out that he tried to 3D print a weapon.
Let me.
Jesus, John.
Makes sense considering they're on an unknown planet, but Maureen makes a big deal about it. John didn't go through with the printing, but someone else did. Maureen goes back to the engine room to disassemble it. Then Smith comes clean. Was she the gun printer all this time? Nope, she just wanted to come clean that she doesn't know anything about spaceship engines. After that, she tries to build rapport with Maureen, but knowing she's a dirty liar, anything from her mouth is not to be trusted. Suddenly, John spots a fuel leak, so they get right to it. Judy gets a little Joker moment, but it's through that we see something is swimming in the glacier. Penny and Will are busy cleaning engine parts, and it looks like the robot is picking something up.
These parts aren't gonna clean themselves.
So Will chases after it. Smith gets the news that things are becoming dire, so she sneaks off and begins to pack her stuff. Nearby, Will is following the robot, and its hunch is right. Some snake-like things are slithering in the ship's pipelines. The robot traps Will in Smith's room. Then he informs Penny and Maureen once they get to him. Right on cue, because something gets to John. The girls regroup to find John, but here he is, along with this lifeless alien snake. John says it's this thing that's been poking holes at their fuel tank. Upon closer inspection by Maureen, these slimy gullets are literally eating away at their fuel. They have a new objective now. They have to stop these things from sucking down their fuel, or else the glacier might eat them all out. John's on it, and since the robot is blocking the tool room, aka Smith's room, he can't get to his tools. He asks Judy to 3D print another wrench.
I need you to print me a torque wrench, 11/16.
While he goes out eel hunting. Inside, Will feels helpless because the robot is overprotective and keeps Will and Smith in, and no one goes out. 2 days earlier, we see the way Smith infiltrates the ship as her sister. Then a dude catches her. Looks like this married man has a secret tryst with the original Jess, but he soon finds out, and they have a little tussle. In the end, Smith throws him out to space. Back to present day, John is wrestling with the jaws of a hungry eel. Maureen, Penny, and Judy are all making great progress. Then John lynches the alien eel. Suddenly, the glacier caves in and down goes the Jupiter ship. So does Penny into the flooded compartment. John and Maureen reunite in the control room, so John radios Judy, and although she's trapped, she claims to be okay. The 3D printing got interrupted though. Next problem they have on their hands is that the fall caused all of their fuel to shift towards the infested tank. So now it's a buffet for the alien eels. With no choice, they have to use the fuel or there will be no fuel to use at all. Suddenly, Penny screams for help. The ship rocks some more, so Judy is put into the same trapped scenario all over again. John then goes to rescue Penny first by dousing himself with fuel and leading the eels away.
They're all around me. I can't move.
While Smith helps Will to communicate with the robot, then Judy frees herself with the 3D printed wrench. Then the same goes for Smith when the robot lets her and only her out. Smith goes to the command console and thinks about ditching the Robinsons, but instead she comes back to help Maureen. Everyone but Will and the robot reunite in the control room and they prepare to blast off, but those eels have clogged up the fuel lines. So Judy comes with a daring solution: dump the fuel. Without any other option, John gives the green light, and goodbye eels, and goodbye glacier. With too many close calls, the Jupiter flies out of there. Then John actually sticks the landing.
Everyone hold tight.
More good news. Comms are live and they're not alone. Maureen and John check up on Will, and he's safely hugging the robot. Much later, Penny reveals to the family that the comms are up with the Resolute and they're coming for the rescue. This is all good news, except for Smith. She remembers when she was apprehended by this officer days ago in the Resolute, and she's in dire straits. Suddenly, there's a breach that happened, and you know what comes next. Back to the present, it looks like we know now who the gun printer is. It's the robot. He offers the gun to Will, but he strictly says no violence. That's where Smith comes in and sees all of this unfold. Prime those space engines, because that's it for episodes 1 through 3 of Lost in Space, starring Molly Parker, Toby Stephens, and Maxwell Jenkins. Which part did you like on this new planet? Let us know at the comments below using #CinemaRecap, and we'll see you at the next episode batch.